Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello everyone, welcome back with me. I'm Kholidia Tamami. My student ID number is 2023-630017. In this video, I would like to answer several questions for my final exam of Psycholinguistics for language teacher. So let's get started. Well, for the first question, I would like to share my opinion about psycholinguistics. In my opinion, psycholinguistics combines knowledge from psychology and linguistics to explain the relationship between language and mental processes. It essentially answers the question, what happens in our brains when we use a language? I think psycholinguistics is interesting because it shows that language is not only a communication tool, but also a part of human thinking. When people speak, listen, read or write, their brains perform many complex processes automatically. Psycholinguistics help us understand how these processes work. As a future English teacher, I believe psycholinguistics is useful because it helps teachers understand how students acquire language, process information, and overcome learning difficulties. By understanding how the brain works during language learning, teachers can create more effective and meaningful learning experiences. Now, let's move to the second question, which is about the importance of psycholinguistics in language learning. Psycholinguistics is important in language learning because it helps teachers understand how students learn, understand, and use language. It explains the mental processes involved in listening, speaking, reading, and writing. By understanding psycholinguistics, teachers can choose effective teaching methods, improve student language skills, and help learners overcome learning difficulties. It also helps teachers understand how memory, attention, and comprehension influence language learning. In addition, psycholinguistics supports the idea that language learning is not only about memorizing vocabulary and grammar, but also about understanding how the mind processes language. Therefore, teachers can create learning activities that are more meaningful and suitable for students' needs. Moving on to the next question, as a teacher, how would I motivate students to develop an energetic interest in language learning? Well, as a teacher, I would create a positive and enjoyable learning environment so that students feel comfortable and confident when learning a language. I would use interesting activities such as games, videos, songs, and group discussions to make learning more engaging. I would also connect the lesson to students' daily lives so they can see the benefits of learning English. In addition, I would give praise and encouragement to increase their confidence and motivation. From a psycholinguistic perspective, students learn better when they are interested, motivated, and actively involved in the learning process. Therefore, I would encourage them to practice the language regularly and not be afraid of making mistakes. By creating a sportive atmosphere and meaningful learning experiences, I can help students develop energetic interest in language learning and become more motivated to improve their language skills. Now, let's continue with the fourth question, which is the concept of recursion and how it can be implemented in language teaching to help the students' understanding. Well, as a teacher, I would use recursion by teaching language patterns repeatedly in different situations. For example, after students learn a simple sentence structure, I would gradually add more information to create longer and more complex sentences. For instance, the boy is playing, and then the boy is playing football, and the boy who wears a blue shirt is playing football in the field. This method helps students see how language structures can be expanded while following the same basic pattern. By practicing this pattern repeatedly, students can better understand grammar and sentence construction. Recursion helps students develop their language skills step by step and make it easier for them to create and understand more complex sentences. Next, let's discuss why do people sometimes misunderstand ambiguous sentences. Well, people sometimes misunderstand ambiguous sentences because a sentence can have more than one meaning. Different people may interpret the same sentence in different ways depending on their knowledge, experience, or context. For example, the sentence, "I saw the man with the telescope," can mean that I used a telescope to see the man, or that the man had a telescope. Because the meaning is unclear, misunderstanding can occur. From a psycholinguistic perspective, understanding language involves processing meaning and context. When a sentence is ambiguous, the brain may choose the wrong interpretation, especially if there is not enough context to clarify the intended meaning. Therefore, ambiguous sentences can lead to misunderstanding because they allow multiple interpretations. Now, let's move on to the sixth question. Do humans have an innate ability to learn language? Why or why not? Okay, yes, I believe humans have an innate ability to learn language. According to Chomsky theory, children are born with a natural capacity for language learning. This ability helps them understand and produce language even without formal instruction. Children can learn complex grammar patterns at a very young age, even though they are not explicitly taught all the rules. This suggests that humans have a built-in ability that support language acquisition. However, environmental factors are also important. Children need interaction and exposure to a language in order to develop their language skills effectively. Therefore, language learning is influenced by both innate ability and experience. And for the last question, let's look at how psycholinguistic principles can improve English language teaching. Okay, psycholinguistic principles can improve English language teaching by helping teachers understand how students process and learn language. This knowledge allows teachers to choose teaching methods that match student cognitive needs. For example, teachers can use meaningful communication, repetition, and interactive activities to strengthen language learning. They can also consider the role of memory, attention, and motivation in the learning process. In addition, psycholinguistics helps teachers understand common learning difficulties and provide appropriate support for students. As a result, English lessons becomes more effective, engaging, and learner-centered. Therefore, psycholinguistic principles help teachers create better learning experiences and improve students' language development. That's all for me. Thank you for attention. Thank you for watching my video. And don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. See ya!